Hello my friends, welcome to today's video. I'm Jeanette with Vivo Vintage Designs. Today's video should be a lot of fun. I hope that you enjoy it and that you give it a try. Now let's get started. So we have painted every type of scape that I can think of. Seascapes, mountainscapes, farmscapes, celestial scapes. So today I thought we would paint a cityscape, and I'm going to show you how I drew it also. Check the description box for a list of all the supplies that I'm using if you'd like to know more about them, but I'm working on 100% cotton watercolor paper. And I did take a lid and draw like a half circle on the paper off camera. And now I'm using a mechanical pencil and I'm going to draw these very wonky houses and buildings. And you can see my lines are not straight. I would not want to live in these houses, but they will make an adorable painting. So I'm going to draw some large buildings and some small houses. And I'm just going to fill in that area with whatever comes to mind at that moment. And again, don't worry if your lines are perfectly straight. That one was too straight, so I curved it in a little bit. And the windows are all different sizes. And that's what's going to give this painting character. So use whatever buildings you want in your painting. Add as many or as little as you like. Here I'm adding a few antennas, and this apartment building has an air conditioning unit on top, or at least that's what I think it should be. So I'm going to continue adding buildings until I'm happy with the amount that I have. You can see you don't have to be able to draw well to create this little cityscape. Just have fun with it. I think that a lot of times we get so caught up in everything being perfect that we lose the fun of painting or drawing. And with this style of painting, I think that it frees you from that need to be perfect and have everything just right. Because in whimsical painting, nothing is perfect. But when the painting is finished, it is absolutely adorable and perfect. So, okay, I think I've got all the buildings that I need. And I can always add anything else that I want as I go along. So now I'm wetting down my watercolors. I'm using my Muño pan paints. And the first thing I want to do is I want to paint the sky. So I switched to a much larger brush and I'm taking some clean water and I'm going to wet the background for the sky. I'm going to use the tip of the brush to try and get in closer to the houses, but if I get water on the house or if I get some of my sky color on one of the buildings, it's okay. It doesn't matter. It'll only add to the charm, and you'll see what I mean. And now I'm not listing the colors that I'm using because you can use whatever colors you have. You may not have this exact set, but that's okay. I'm using an ultramarine blue for the sky. And you can see that I'm skipping around because doing this makes it look like there's clouds in the sky. And then I'll use the tip of the brush to get around the houses wherever I need to. I'm using my silver black velvet brushes, and these brushes have a really fine tip and it allows you the control to get in between there where you need to into those small spaces, even though I'm using a large brush. Now, I did speed this video up a little bit But if you find that it's too fast, you can always slow it down in your YouTube settings. And as always, if you have any questions about anything you see me do in this video, please let me know in the comments. I read all the comments and I answer all the questions. So if you have any, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them for you. And consider joining our Facebook group, Vivo Vintage Design Tutorials, where you can post your versions of the techniques and paintings learned on this channel. Okay, so now the sky is finished and I did let it dry. So now I am going to start painting my buildings. And I like to use a heavy consistency of paint to create an outline. Then I clean my brush and I use clean water to spread that paint towards the center of the area that I'm painting. And I like this because it gives me kind of like a highlight. And you can see that I'm also adding different colors. I did mix some colors and put them on my palette that you see there on the top right. And those are the colors that I thought I was going to use. But I did go into my paint palette and pick up some other colors now and then. But you can see I painted this green, and here I'm picking up some, I don't remember what color that is, but I'm dropping it in the green also. And I'm going to continue doing that as I paint, as I finish up this painting. And you have to drop in the second color while the first color is still wet. Otherwise it won't blend well. So here I painted it gray and I'm adding a little bit of green here and there. And then I'm just letting it blend on its own. And now I need some antennas. I don't even know what an antenna looks like. So I just used some black paint and added a few of them here and there. Now that every rooftop has been painted, I'm going to start painting my buildings. And I'm not concerned about getting everything perfectly straight and making sure that I'm within my lines, because I'm going to outline this later on and that will bring everything together. And I'm doing the same thing for the buildings that I did for the rooftops. Once I have my base color down, I'm going to pick up a second or even a third color and I'm going to drop it in while the paint is still wet. And you can see I painted right over the windows. That's okay. And while you're painting your buildings, make sure to skip around so that you're not painting next to a wet area, because even though it doesn't matter so much if your colors blend one into the other, you want to kind of keep them separated. So you'll see that I'm skipping around. And you know, now that I'm doing this voiceover, I wish I had added a couple of fire escapes, but I didn't think of it at the time. Now I realize I hadn't added any trees. So I'm going to add those now. And I'm creating the outline and then using a clean brush to blend the color into the center. And I'm just going to add them here and there wherever I think I might need one. Now that I have a few trees in, I'm going to finish up my buildings. I had a little bleeding there. My tree was still wet, so you saw I took the smaller brush and I just pulled that color out of the tree. And it blended a little bit more in there, but that's okay. Now I'm going to paint the bottom section of this picture. So I'm adding some water, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use different shades of green to create some like little hills. Gotta have hills. And because the paper is wet, it kind of blends together very nicely. And I'm adding a little bit of texture while the paper is still wet by just adding a few lines of different greens in there. Now I waited for everything to dry, and once it was dry, I grabbed my micron pens, and now I'm going to start adding the detail, and this is the fun part for me. Again, you can see that nothing is perfect. There's no straight lines. The windows aren't perfectly square. And this is so much fun. Add another antenna here and there. And there's so many things that I can think of adding now that the painting is finished. But you can have so much fun with this. This one I added a few window boxes, and later on I'm going to add some shutters. And now I'm adding some detail to the trees. I'm using a 0.05 micron pen for these details. For the smaller details, I used a 0.3. And then I'm just going to redefine anything I need to. And I'm going to add some texture to the rooftops, a few shingles. And then I'm going to define my little hills here. Now, of course, you know, I got to add texture to these buildings. So here I'm using a few of the different colors that are left over on my palette, and I'm going to make it look like it's a stone building. So I'm using different colors, and I'm adding little lines to make it look like stone. Now for this next one, I wanted to make it look like brick, so I'm using a flat brush to do this. And I'm only using the red. I mix a little bit of brown in it to get that brick color. And I'm just going to add a few of these here and there. You don't need to fill the entire building in. This one I wanted to look like wood, so I'm using the flat brush and just adding a few lines. Now I'm adding some greenery to my little flower boxes. It's hard to see them, but they're there. And now I'm picking up a little bit of red to add some flowers, and it's just dots. Now, of course, I have to add some texture to these little hills, so I decided to use the watercolor for this. And each hill is going to have a different pattern. This one has dashes in it. This one just has lines, curved lines. Some orange dots for this one. some diagonal dashes for this one. And some X's for the last one. Now I'm using very diluted indigo to paint the windows. I'm using my smaller brush for this. And then I had to bring out the Posca pens because there just wasn't enough going on in here. So I just went over the lines that I put on the paper to define the hills and just added a little bit of color. And here I'm using a white gel pen to add some highlights in the windows and on the antennas and wherever I think I could use a little bit of highlight. This really makes things pop. Just adding a few lines here and there will really make this stand out a little bit more. In the windows, I'm just creating a couple of little lines to make it look like the sun is reflecting off the windows. And to the antennas, I'm going to add a little detail also, or a little highlight. You can even add some texture to the rooftops with the white gel pen. Adding some white shingles, or shingles with the white gel pen, to this little house. And then, of course, I had to add a little bit more detail to the little hills, and you'll see that in a moment. But first, I added some dots to some of the trees to make them stand out a little bit more. And here you can see that I'm just adding a little white highlight here and there. Because I felt there was a lot going on in the background, but not enough going on in the foreground. So I wanted these little marks that I made to stand out a little bit more, and adding a little white highlight to them did just the trick. I hope that these types of paintings inspire you, and that when you create your own, you add whatever elements you like. Again, now that I am doing this voiceover, I think of all kinds of things that I could have added. I could have made a little park there in the foreground, added some trees, a little bench. I think a fire escape on that the tallest building would have been great. Maybe a fire hydrant, a fence, a clothesline. All kinds of things. Make it your own. I'm just here to inspire you and give you some ideas, and then you can have fun making it your own painting by adding whatever elements you like. Well, I'm just going to redefine these lines, make them stand out a little bit more separation between the buildings, and we are near the end of the video. I hope that you have enjoyed this and that you have been inspired to give it a try. Let me know if you have any questions. Check the description box for links to the products used. Consider joining our Facebook group, Vivo Vintage Design Tutorials. I would love to see you there, and I would love to have you share your versions of the paintings and techniques learned on this channel. So I hope you consider joining. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.